I'll be excited.
All right.
Let's call this meeting room to order. Please join me in our invocation pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed on us. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we make decisions that affect so many lives here in Lee County. We ask that you go with us in our daily walks with you, and please continue to bless us as you have in the past. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome all you guests here. It's good to see you this morning. I will now turn it over to our superintendent for our board reorganization.
I love the sound of the gavel. We need nominations for a chairperson for the 13-14 school year, for the remainder of this.
I nominate Robert
Philman, yeah.
Philman.
Phil Pot.
If Philman was here.
I second that.
We have a nomination and
No
a
need
second.
to take a nomination.
I move nomination cease.
Nominations have been called to cease. We now need a nomination for a vice chairperson. Do we have a nomination
I
for that?
nominate Mr. Turner.
Any other nominations?
I move nominations for vice chairman cease.
Nominations cease. Can we vote on all these at one time? Have to do one. For the chairperson, nominations have been for Robert Philpott, and he is the only nomination. So that pretty much settles it, doesn't it?
We need a majority vote.
All of those in favor of Robert Philpott being the chairperson, please say aye.
Aye.
And like that for nominations are unanimous. Robert Philpott will be the chairperson. For the vice chair, it's been nominated Rick Turner, and he is the only nomination, so therefore all in favor of Turner being the vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Again, it was by unanimous vote, so therefore Rick Turner will be the vice chair. Now we need a motion for the meeting times. And do we have?
Those that we set on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month at 6 p.m. and 2 weeks thereafter at 9 a.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue as we have.
Mr. Superintendent, could I be heard on this matter?
Yes, sir.
I'm just not sure if the board has any interest in going to the second and fourth Tuesday as opposed to the first and the third. That would free up my schedule, but obviously it's the board's pleasure and we'll make it happen.
Now you're saying what, the first and fourth?
Second.
Second and fourth?
As opposed to first and third.
It doesn't make any difference to me. I mean,
Doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
any other thoughts from the board?
So we keep the Tuesday after the first Monday?
No, you keep the second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday was Monday, and then 2 weeks later.
Yes.
Doesn't matter.
How will that affect anything that goes on like on a monthly basis to where things are relatively beginning of the month? I mean, I'm looking here like November would have been the 12th and the 26th.
Mr. Clemens?
Typically, that's the board meeting dates are the date that we pay our account payables. So it might impact some of our vendors, such as delayed the meeting. I don't think it would be a big interruption.
How much is a schedule change for you? I mean,
I have another conflict one Tuesday a month on the evening meeting, so I'll have to alternate in some coverage or something.
Would it be better if we change the times? Flip-flop the times with that?
I don't think that would help him because they have.
Elijah has the evening meeting first and third Tuesday, so,
So they meet the evening.
both, yes. And I don't mean to make this about me. We'll make it work so the board's happy. I'm under the impression the board doesn't have any interest in meeting twice in the morning.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to meet
that's-
one time after 5 o'clock.
I like the idea of having the specific attorney we hire here. You know, I like the other people, and I know y'all have, but it's very much, we have this relationship where I'm much more comfortable because we know each other and talk to you about something than somebody who just, a replacement for you. Does that make sense? Not doubting their skills, but does that make sense?
No, and I would prefer to keep it that way, and frankly, there's been a little, it's more on the other end. They need a little more assistance because they're in the middle of the superintendent search. So my plan would be here all the time, but occasionally I'm getting pulled there on that one Tuesday. But again, we'll make it work.
You know, I'm cool, whatever.
I think the second and fourth would be fine for accounts payable. I mean, if it got to be a problem, then we could address it at that point, but I don't think that should be part of your consideration, so.
I don't think it affects anything we do on a daily basis as far as principals meetings and things of that nature. I don't think it has any effect on that. We just schedule principals meetings as we see fit anyway.
well,
We'll have to change our school visits then, correct?
yes,
But that wouldn't be a problem either.
And holidays.
I mean, are there, I mean, it's just a change and, you know, we all get used to change and we can adjust and redo, but, I mean,
That being said, will we then skip the December meeting, because that would be on Christmas Eve? If we go to
Yes.
the change.
I hope we do.
and then we wouldn't skip the January meeting.
Well, would that free up the first meeting in January?
No, we would have the first meeting in January because it would be the 14th rather than the 7th.
Right now, today I've got it on the agenda to vote to cancel that meeting.
Right.
So therefore, what we would do is cancel the last December meeting and put the 14th of January back on the docket.
We have a motion and a motion is
No, we don't have a motion. We have a motion to keep it the way we have
We do
on the
have a
table
motion.
right now.
That's the Christmas holiday, that last one would always be that we, the school closed, and we, like you said, we have to cancel it, right?
But we've always done it in January, this is the first one because of school just getting back, so
This
it's either
time,
one.
yeah, if we did that, we wouldn't have to cancel.
We wouldn't cancel January.
We always- So we're not doing any more, we're just changing the one that we canceled.
No, last year we canceled both the December and the January.
It might, and it might also be better to have that second and fourth, because if you, right now, like, there's a county commissioner meeting going on at the same time, there may be somebody there may be an interested party that may have to choose between going to a school board meeting and a county commission
You
meeting.
mean the
But we
media
can
out
make a
there?
decision.
Maybe the media?
But on the other hand,
See, if
that, you may have another problem, you may create another problem.
We might, I don't know. Oh, okay.
I don't have any issues with no driving. Because I'm a lot like Cameron in that aspect, this is the man we hired for our lawyer, and that's who I'd like to be president of our meetings. Understanding the rest of his, staff are good people.
They are good people, and I like both Ryan and Ms. Seagull, but at the same time, sometimes I send daily information, situations or problems. I might send them to David when Brian's been dealing with it lately. And there could be some communication problems like that. And I would rather just deal with David all the time, period.
I think we have heard from Mr. Superintendent that this change would not affect the operation of his office as it relates to these meetings and the board.
That's correct.
I think we've also heard from Mr. Clemens that as far as the accounts payable, that the finance department, it would,
I think we'll be fine.
they would be fine with it. With that in mind, I move that beginning with the,
I got one motion on the floor, sir.
which motion? Oh, that's right, we do. Could I amend that motion? Could I amend that motion? And I would like to amend that motion to include changing the dates of our meetings to the second and fourth Tuesday of each month.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Can you say that?
He's not anything right
I'm
now.
nothing. I'm just a peon right there.
I ain't nobody.
I should have been addressing that to you then.
No, you're doing fine.
The only other thing I will
I
bring
still
up
got to get.
about that is during November, then that puts you in Thanksgiving week.
Well, at some point,
Tuesday, so-
Mike, thank you for that, from my perspective anyway, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, in Thanksgiving week, this is another issue too, and I was gonna bring up another issue later too. But we have an agenda meeting when school's out, and I require my people to be here on Tuesday or Monday for that agenda meeting. And so whether they're here for the agenda meeting or for the board meeting, doesn't make any difference to me. I'm gonna be here, but school will be out during that period of time.
Can, during the course of the year, if we say this isn't working, can we vote on it again? Redo it? Can you redo it?
No, you cannot.
Reorganization.
Not till the next reorganization?
No.
That's when you set your board times.
It is, I have to do some research on that to verify. It's something we could also just keep for future consideration.
Well, to me, it is very important, it is very important to have our primary attorney available for us, and I think this would, by doing this, would make that make that work. And I appreciate you bringing it up, because it's, to me, that is a high consideration. The rest of it, we can make it work.
The only other thing I would mention is that, my intention is gonna be here, and it's my intention to make every single meeting. The only thing that trumps that is when a judge tells me to be somewhere else. And occasionally that happens, not in my personal life, but professionally, I'm required to do some trials, and those usually do follow the first week of the month. So I'm at a slightly higher risk of conflicts on that first Tuesday of the month, separate and apart from the Alachua County School Board meeting.
But the second and fourth, you look pretty cool.
That tends to be more open.
I'm not real sure, what you mean by more.
Well, the last meeting that I missed, because I was in a trial for a week in Ocala, and the civil trial docket usually falls in the first week. Alachua, Marion, and several other surrounding counties, that's just how they tend to do it.
The other point or question that I have for the board is that the School Board Association meeting and FAST meeting in Tampa, a lot of us would be going down on Tuesday evening to be there for Wednesday morning. And that being a night meeting, if we stay the same, I want to make sure we're going to have a forum for Tuesday night, December 3rd. I don't know what y'all's plans are, that's what I'm trying to say, but we have a board meeting scheduled for then.
Well, we do have it scheduled, it would be the 10th then, wouldn't it go to the second week?
if we change, but right now it's scheduled for the
Right,
3rd.
yeah, right now it's scheduled for the 3rd.
And I thought there was some discussion about canceling that.
That was in January, the January meeting.
I thought that-
December 3rd.
I thought the board had discussed possibly canceling its meeting on the 3rd because of the school association meeting.
We haven't
Yeah,
brought
right,
that
it's the
I don't think we,
up. We've never brought that up.
Okay.
but I was gonna bring it up today, because I need to know if we're gonna have a forum, or if we're going to change the meeting time, or what.
My suspicion, and without having done any research, I believe that meeting time could be changed back if it was not satisfactory to the board. I'm not aware of any reason why the board can't adjust its schedule.
I think all you have to do is just advertise that.
Your policy allows that.
I say we try.
Okay,
Call the question,
Which-
Mr. Superintendent, since you have
thank you.
the gravel.
If I'm hearing correctly, I think Mr. Turner's motion as he's amended it to have it on the 2nd and the 4th has not gotten a second yet.
Yes, it is.
You second, okay.
Okay.
Looking out for you.
What he said.
Yeah. Okay, first we're voting on the amendment to change it to the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of each month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have a vote that we will change 4 to 1. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Now we need to have the motion's been amended, so now we need to have a vote on the amended motion.
now we're voting on the amended motion.
I have a question, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, would you mind maybe,
Keep my mouth and not cross myself.
that would have been, I'd like to know you know.
Okay, I'll tell you, and I think the world of David, and I really, really do. And I agree absolutely with him being here and being our lawyer. I absolutely believe what Mr. Hastings says. I just feel like in the past, over the years, that we had council that we had to change. We had to change for Gilchrist County. I'm not trying to be negative, I'm just being honest. And we, made adjustments. Me, it's just me. I feel like when, as a board and we hire somebody, we hire you under the conditions that it's this, and this is our board, this is our time, this is the way we've done it. So it's truly me, it's my opinion. I'm gonna be happy, and I'm gonna adjust, and I'm gonna be here every one, so that's not gonna matter, and I'm not gonna feel any different, so that's just my opinion,
I
honestly.
appreciate you sharing that.
So, can I summarize by saying you feel like you work for us? And I think you're right.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to be negative, that's really not negative, I don't mean a bad reflection, honestly.
No, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we will now vote on the amendment to the amended,
Needed motion.
Motion has been.
How's that motion?
I want to test his reflexes.
Yeah, right on the head, that's what you're trying to
It's
say.
not very good of that.
Since this is somewhat a controversial
Well,
issue,
it's not, honestly, I'm
I'm
not.
going to ask for a show of hands. Those in favor of the amended motion, in favor of it, signify by raising your right hand. We have 2 votes. Those opposed to the amended motion, signify by raising your right hand. 3 votes. Therefore, the amended motion is defeated, and we will. Now we need a motion on back to the original time and schedule.
We need to start.
Start over. So, Mr. Coward, do you have a motion you want to make?
I move that we keep our meetings the first Tuesday after the first Monday of the month at 6 PM and 2 weeks thereafter at 9 AM.
Have a
I
second.
second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Okay, I will now turn the gavel over to Mr. Philpott, our new chair of the board.
I'm going out here by the name.
Shift it up.
Everybody's got to skip one down.
Chris, it was.
Welcome to the party, my man.
We had a lot of fun down there, so you're gonna have to step up.
I'm trying to get you.
I'd like to say, I would like to say I was looking forward to this, but that sounds kind of negative, so that's all I'm gonna say, but just gotta be patient with, just that's what I commend you for your years as chairman. I think you did a good job. I personally really appreciate your effort.
Thank you, Mr. Philpott, that means a lot.
Yeah, I know it does. Mr. Superintendent, you have a couple other things before we move on?
Yes, we need to select a school district legislative liaison person, and I think Ms. Brookins served on as that last year.
Right, and I would like to make a nomination. I've served on it for the last how many years? And I really enjoyed it. I love it, love it, love it, and it's a wonderful opportunity, and I thank you very, very much. And I love going to the meetings and everything, but to tell you the truth, time is precious these days, and I don't have it. I cannot put my full effort into it, not at all. So I would like to nominate Chris Cowart for our legislative delegate.
We have a nomination, do we have a second?
I move nomination.
We don't need a second. Correct. Do we have further nominations?
I move nomination cease.
Nomination ceased. All those in favor of Chris Cowart being the legislative delegate from the Digby County School District, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Chris will represent us as our legislative delegate.
Another really great job. Written reports back.
It's something we never got over.
We also need to select an alternate in case Mr. Cowart would be unavailable. So do we have a nomination for an alternate legislative liaison?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Turner for alternate.
I move nomination cease.
Second.
We have Mr. Turner as suggested as an alternate. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Therefore, Mr. Turner will be the alternate legislator. Now, will we have a quorum for December 3rd?
I will be here.
I don't think I will.
You're going down there, but, yeah, that's what you said.
Right, so that's a night you two.
That's a night meeting.
Because Wednesday is when the chair and vice chair stuff is.
I thought it was Tuesday. It's Wednesday? I thought Tuesday the chair was a meeting.
I thought it was Tuesday.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm not.
I can't go down there till Wednesday night, so I'll be here.
Are you going down there Tuesday because of your meeting?
I am, but I'm gonna leave like at 7:30. I was planning on leaving like at 7:30.
I'll be here.
But we change that date, this wouldn't
I
be
might
my
turn the
turn.
whole proceedings over to Mr. Edison and let him run it and go earlier.
Yeah.
But I can do that, but we have to have a quorum here, so
We had to have three, right?
had to have 3.
What about you, Tom?
I had intended on being down there, so we'd have to drive so early.
You get in that early traffic like I always do.
I have done
So
that.
I'll answer that.
I've done that.
And I'll be honest with you, Mr. Superintendent, if I was about 30 years younger, it would probably make a big difference. But I've done that before too, and it's not even fun getting up that early in the morning, because you'd have to leave like 5:30 or something. I mean, I don't realize I get up early to do it, but,
Driving in traffic is different.
I agree, especially down, them people out there crazy.
Yeah, I've had my share of that early morning, Tampa traffic.
It's hard.
So, Mr. Asbell will be here. Mr. Coward will be here. Ms. Brookins, no. So therefore, we will not have a quorum.
Mr. Atkins will be here.
What would we have to do to move that one meeting to, no, we gotta have one night meeting.
Can we change that and advertise a change for that meeting?
I believe so. That's in our policy, right?
And we've got time.
Yeah, we have time.
You can make the second meeting,
Yeah, that would be the first meeting that month, so we could swap a morning and night meeting for the month of December. Can I have I'm not chair.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so we could do our morning meeting on the 3rd and our night on the 17th, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
So we need a motion for that.
yes.
I make the motion that for the December 3rd meeting, we have it in the morning at our regular 9 a.m. And on the 17th, we have it in the evening at our regular 6 p.m. time.
Okay, we have a
I
motion
second, Mr. Chairman.
and a second. Any further discussion?
That's gonna alleviate the problem, right?
It makes a bit of a problem for me, honestly, that in my personal business life. I mean, I'd pretty well be out all week, and it's a rough week for me. We'll figure it out, but I'm just letting y'all know that's gonna be tough for me.
It'll be a burden.
It'll be a burden.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Philpott, I am totally wrong on, it's Tuesday from 9 to 3:30 is the chairmanship for the
On
FSBA.
Tuesday.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to be there at 1 till you go with.
So,
Usually Monday night or early Tuesday morning.
so,
I'll get there late.
or get that out.
Fashion.
Well, if we had a morning meeting, that pretty much wipes that out. That won't work either.
But you can make the 17th, the night meeting, just have one meeting in December.
It's true. You do not have to have 2 meetings a month.
That's right.
You have to have 1 meeting a month after 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
So we could cancel. Bob, how would that affect?
That would be fine, and, we could still do the accounts payable and just present it to you on the 17th,
Well,
if that would be acceptable.
the other problem is I hope to finish negotiations Thursday this week. So, in order to get, but the board would be able to ratify it after they put it out. So that really wouldn't matter, so we'd have to do it on the 17th anyway. So,
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'll tell you what, board members,
Sir.
after, if we get the sign off by the union on Thursday, and they get it out to a vote, and they can do that in 2 days or 7 weeks, whichever they want to do. They've done both. But let's say they get the vote out in 2 days, and they get it ratified. I can then call a special board meeting, and as long as I got 3 board members here, and we advertise it, then I can get it ratified by the board. And I'm trying to get retro checks out to all the employees.
We certainly want to do that.
Right, yeah. So, let's just, I'm gonna need a motion for all of this. I don't even know.
We
Yeah,
have a
we've done
motion on the floor.
What's our motion?
To swap.
To swap.
And night meetings for December.
No.
Then I made the motion, so I'm gonna take that motion back, withdraw it.
We have to have permission to do that. We can give that to you.
Okay, can you give me that permission, and then I'm just making a motion to withdraw my motion? Okay, that's my motion.
She has a motion to withdraw her motion.
I second that.
We have a second. All in favor of motion being withdrawn, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. Okay. Now, my suggestion would be that we cancel the December 3rd meeting and have the ninth meeting be on the 17th, that day, on the 17th. And, well, we'll just leave it at that, then we'll call a special meeting as we have the opportunity.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Yes, sir.
That, you know, that's gonna give us one meeting in a month, you have to realize that, right? I mean, if we pass the deal on the seventh, I just wanna make sure everybody's aware of that.
We'll have, what he said, we'll have one meeting in December and only one meeting in January. So 2 months in a row, we'll only have one meeting.
But, you know,
I think when you consider the holidays and the things going on.
Well, and not only that, but I do anticipate calling a special board meeting to get it ratified too.
Yeah.
We do too.
And also, we're all going to the training, and we're going to the ethics training too.
we've got to do that.
Yeah, and so,
I've had about it straight. I almost made it so too. I'm kidding.
Can I take a tip?
No, you just had to do it.
Everything for you.
Is the intent to start the meeting on the 17th at evening time?
Okay. I think we have a motion and a second on the floor for one more meeting for the month of December. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. Now, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I understand that, make sure we got this clear, we're not gonna meet on the 3rd. And we're not gonna be, well, we don't know about that yet. Okay,
We haven't done so.
thank you. All right.
Mr. Hastings, you'll call us and let us know and just tell, so we can get that done. That, we're gonna have a special board meeting, so we can get that.
We'd have to wait until after they ratify. They gotta put it out for a vote and ratify it, then I can bring it to the board for ratification. But all that has to happen before Mr. Clemens' payroll department can, issue retro checks and get everybody else to. This is a very, very busy month for them because they're trying to they'll have to get out paychecks early for the December holidays, plus retro checks. So they're
That's a lot.
gonna have a lot, but they can do it.
Mr. Clemens, you're also doing payroll checks this week for Thanksgiving, because of Thanksgiving holiday.
Right.
All right. Looks like the next item on the agenda is Dr. Nick. How you doing, Doctor? Great, how are you? Good.
Questions? Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, we canceled the January 7th meeting?
Not yet.
No. All right, sorry, I thought we.
That will be coming.
That's coming. Thank you, ma'am.
Morning, board members. Had an opportunity to go to FOIL, which stands for Florida Organizational Instructional Leaders, last week. Several, if not all districts attended this meeting. Sparta Rivers also attended with me. It's 2 days of back-to-back PowerPoints with heads of departments that come and present their particular information. What I've tried to do today is just narrow down to two major topics. One would be school grades and changes that are coming, and then the other one would be upcoming assessments for our teachers and how they will select those. Some other topics that they covered, which we're not going to go into detail on, is 1076, and that would be all the graduation requirements. They talked about digital learning, the governor's executive order, So there's plenty of information covered. This PowerPoint I've adapted from the DOE so that it's shorter. So we can really just drill down to those areas that are important to you as a board member and to our principals and our teachers. So I'll go ahead and start with this. The school grading system still has a focus on student achievement, learning gains, focusing on students that need the most support to succeed, and you'll see that in the chart. As we move forward, the system of rewards is still in place and supports. We actually still have the DA teams going into schools. We have one. We had a visit last week, and they've changed their philosophy on how they support schools. It's not a punitive approach, it's a supportive approach, facilitative. And this is, according to the DOE, we were modeled for the nation historically. Where are we now with high school grades? We're going to talk about high school grades, but there are some changes. And where are we heading? The accountability changes for 2013-14 with scheduled and enrolled and the focus moving forward. This is a really good breakdown and a good reminder of what we do in our schools, try to focus on, and how we are rated. You've got your reading, your math, your writing, and your science. This is your basic model for elementary schools. This also applies to middle and high, but they also have other components. And you see the performance points that are on the table. And this is basically percentage that pass with a 3 or higher. There are 100 points there. So if you have 60% of your students pass, you get 60 points. And the same goes for math, writing, and science. 100 points on the table right there for our teachers and for our schools. If you go down to the next one, learning gains for all students. They wanted, the state wants us to move all of our students, regardless of what level they're on. So there are 100 points for reading and math on learning gains for all students. And then, if you remember the No Child Left Behind legislation, we couldn't leave the lowest behind, so what were we doing with our grading system? The 100 points for the lowest 25%. Their gains count for 100 points and 100 points. That's the basic model for elementary schools, and it also applies to half of middle and high.
Just clarity. When you're talking about learning gain for all students, the lower 25 percentile is not calculated in those. They are calculated in those, so they're calculated twice.
It's like a double.
Okay. So they're, okay, thank you.
Anybody want to comment on that?
There's 800 points.
800 points. Yes, sir.
That's all?
That's elementary is 800
Okay.
points.
Right.
And those points are a challenge with the new cut scores, which we presented last spring. And we showed you how it was going to affect all of our schools and how the state was manipulating those cut scores so that more elementary schools would struggle to get an A. And you've seen that across the state and also local districts around us. And so that's another key thing to remember is cut scores impact these 800 points. High school grades moving forward. Here's our current, this will apply for this year. As you know, our high school grades have not come out yet. You know, at some point they need to speed that up and get them to us before Thanksgiving. We should be looking at high school grades in December, but that's what it's looking like right now. You see the 800 points on this side are the same. These are the same 800 points. We also have the Florida Alternate Assessment. Dr. Hall pointed out that our schools have actually benefited from that, and that's where students have a modified curriculum and they take the alternate assessment. So on this side, you have your acceleration, and this is why we have such an emphasis on AP and dual enrollment. You have an opportunity to score 150 points just by students taking those courses. And we've done a good job with that. That's why Chiefland High School was an A, and Wilson High School was an A, partly because we were on the ball with making sure that our students were given that opportunity for acceleration and industry certification. Carol has done a great job with that. And there's your performance points. Industry certification, dual enrollment pass, AP pass. That counts for performance. 300 points. And that will be in this year's high school report card that's coming out. Graduation rate, 200 points. You have your 4-year and your 5-year. You have your at-risk, 300 points. College readiness, this is also very important. I'm going to show you some new cut scores on this. This is your PERT score, your ACT, and your SAT. Every senior is included in the denominator. Even students that say, I'm not going to college, they still count in the denominator. So if they do not get a passing score on the PERT, the ACT, or the SAT, they will lower your reading readiness score and your math readiness score 200 points.
What do they consider a passing score on the ACT?
I have those in the next slides.
I'm sorry.
Another thing to point out, they do not include special diploma recipients. Now this is very interesting. Think about it. You are not placed on special diploma without going through a very rigorous process and a matrix that basically by law says that you qualify for a special diploma. So they are now on the special diploma track, they earn a special diploma, they walk the stage, they do not count for graduation rate. They would negatively impact your graduation rate because they do not count for you. There's a letter to Arnie Duncan and the U.S. Department of Ed stating this is not right, we need to get this right. So that's another consideration, but our schools are impacted by that. Post-secondary readiness components, we use the cut scores that were in effect for 2012-13, which I'll show you those cut scores in a minute. They have changed those cut scores. So now they're higher. And as of October of this year, if a student did not have a passing score in the PERT, but the new ACT pass score, the SAT is the same, they would not be considered college ready. So they will take the score, if they passed it prior to, they will give us that score for this upcoming year. If not, then we will have to look at the new cut scores. And I'll show you those scores in a minute. Elementary, going forward, no changes. No changes. Here we are. Remember the writing though. I want to point out the writing. It's 3.5. How does the student score a 3.5 when you don't have fractions or decimals within the grading system? You either have to score a 4, and then someone has to give you a 4, or someone has to give you a 3, or you need 2 4s. A 4 is a high score in the writing. So it's not like we're just going to have a 3.5 assigned to a student with 2 graders, 3.5, 3.5. It's a whole number, 4 and a 3. So that's a challenge. And we are really working hard on the writing. We heard yesterday through progress monitoring, we brought everybody together for quarterly reporting, reading coaches, principals, and we heard all of the elaborate plans that they have in their schools to address the writing scores in our district. So we think we're going to see some movement in our writing scores. We also have hired someone to come out and work with our teachers with the writing. And they've been doing that monthly. So those are the keys there. Middle schools, no changes. Notice though what they're doing with middle schools now. And this is in place. 13-14. Middle school students' participation in and performance on high school level EOC assessments and industry certifications. They are pushing down Algebra 1, biology, and industry certification down to the middle school. And they're now saying it's worth 100 points for you, and that has an impact on what students take those courses when they get to high school. So you might see a high-performing middle school with Algebra 1 scores, but those students are not taking Algebra 1 for the high school. Interesting.
Yeah, but it looks good.
So it, here's where we see the changes upcoming for 13-14 for your high schools. They have lowered the participation rate on AP, Industry Cert, and Dual to 100 points, and Performance down to 100 points, to make room for 100 points for the U.S. History EOC. So now the U.S. History EOC has made the grid, so to speak. They're now counting towards the school grade for this school year. No changes in the scale. You were asking about the scale, but remember that 66% of the points, the impact that those new cut scores have on the ability for you to earn those 66% is the most critical thing to remember. Our elementary schools have a much harder time now to earn 66% of the points for the new cut scores. And you see the high schools have 1,600 points possibility, 800 and 800. That has actually helped our high schools with those other components. That's been good for our high schools. We're getting credit for industry certification. We should. What Mr. Hastings points out is that when you do our district grade, we don't get credit for those points. They calculate the district grade before they look at our high school components. So we have high schools around us who are not offering AP, who do not have an emphasis on industry cert, and are not getting those other half of the 800 points, the other 800 points in high school, and they do not count towards the district grade. So I think they need to change that as far as legislative liaison. If you're going to calculate a district grade, you should include those high school components as part of your district grade.
But it's worse than that. We have a special program at Rawson Elementary for special kids with severe medical needs and so forth. And in that program, we have 2 seniors. And so now, up until this year, they had not been including Rawson Elementary in our district grade because they counted into the high school because we had these 2 medically fragile students at Rawson Elementary. Unbelievable. But so they said that was a high school because you got high school students there, and they wouldn't even count Rawson Elementary in our district grade. Anyway, I'm sorry, sir.
No problem. That's good. I mean, that's information that the public needs to know as well. When you're servicing all students, and the same goes when you look at global scores, NAEP scores, and these other international scores, are they including their entire population in those scores? So they say the United States ranks here, we're educating all of our students here, the heterogeneous population, not just a selected group of students that take those assessments. School grade changes, already scheduled for 13-14. I'm pointed out U.S. history, and reduce the points for acceleration to 200 points. That's down from 300 points. So we need 100 points there.
What did you, the acceleration, what did you say that included?
That includes AP, industry certification, and dual enrollment. Those were points that we were earning, and we're losing 100 points of those. But we're going to pick those up in U.S. history, and our U.S. history scores were good. But still, I didn't think they needed to take it from there. They could have found another way to change the system.
Like they encourage you to do some things, but then they discourage you to do the same thing.
Right, this was they put us on a path, and then they pull back and say, that's not important, as important as we said it was. Okay, the school rule changes for 13-14. This does not impact us, but co-located schools would have special provisions, and both of those schools would have to be accountable. We don't have that in our district. The cell size is reset at 10, which is a very low number. If you have 10 students in a school, you get a school grade. 10 students that qualify for an FCAT score, so forth. That is statistically, a cell size of 10 is not significant. That's not sound statistics, but that's where the state's going with that. Revised percent tested calculation. They've changed that to 80% for the alternative centers. Extension of the 1-letter grade drop limit for school grades. That's still in effect through 14-15. College readiness rule, updated post-secondary readiness scores. And ESE Center's rules. Our ESE Center, Summit, will receive a school improvement rating. They, in the past, have not been receiving anything. And what happened at the state level is several ESE centers ended up getting Fs with the new system. And so they have allowed them to opt into the alternative school improvement rating.
Under the safety net provision, Dr. Lemack, how many schools in our district benefit from this?
we had our middle schools benefit from it. Chiefland Middle and Wilson Middle benefited from it. I think
That was it.
that was it, yeah.
Because Crossing Middle High School's come back.
Yeah.
We just Chiefland Middle and Wilson.
I already talked about the cell size. We don't have co-located schools. Extension of the one-letter grade through to 14-15 I mentioned. Here are the new cut scores, Mr. Philpott. We're not using the CPT anymore, so really I don't know why they still have that on their chart. They did not change the SAT verbal and math, but look at the ACT reading and math, 19. That is a very high cut score. And they bumped the PERT up. And here again, we had students that were qualifying under an old PERT score that would qualify them for dual enrollment. And they said it was too low, we got to raise it. So now it's up to 114 and 106. And those affect our readiness rates. The 100 points in reading and 100 points in math are right there. That's how we would earn them. All 11th graders, except level 1s, the previous year, have to take the PERT. But here's something that happened at the college level. In the past, the PERT qualified you for intermediate algebra or college algebra. If you did not score high enough, they put you in developmental courses. Those developmental courses are gone. So they're telling us that we need to have a readiness score for these students. These students take it in 11th grade, they go into 12th grade, we have to put them in college readiness math or reading. Now, we're going to retest them at the end of the year, and the score means nothing. Because they are already qualifying for intermediate English and intermediate math without a score. Now, when our students catch on to that, it's going to be like the FCAT writing. That also doesn't impact their graduation. So we're looking for ways to motivate them to score on that PERT exam because it's going to affect the readiness score for the high school components. I know it's a lot of information, but it's just a reality that our teachers face. Okay, moving forward, this is what the state's vision is: stability through the transition period, clarity, transparency, coherence. Question?
Yes, sir. Do you have any data at all that shows that how many of our kids take ACT make maximum in that?
We are looking at that data because we're trying to crosswalk it to PERT. Ms. Rivers ran that for us the other day, and those scores compared to PERT are about the same because the PERT score is difficult to get, especially with math.
Right.
With reading, we're seeing that the scores are higher. So, but for our lower students that used to be able to get the concordance score through ACT for FCAT purposes, they're not getting that score. It's too high. So that's why we have students that are right now at the finish line. They have 24 credits. They have everything they need to walk except the FCAT, and they can't get a concordant, or they haven't received a concordance score. That is a difficult challenge for them.
Now, I start to understand the expectations of setting, when I talk school, I expect my kids to do the best they can do in everything they did, and I expect them to do that. Sometimes, in my opinion, I think you can reach a point where you actually discourage them rather than encourage them.
That's right.
But that's just my opinion. I mean, they don't look at it, obviously they don't look at it the same way I do.
Well, they've heard from you, and they've made adjustments like they did require all students to take Algebra 2. They had to pull back on that. So they have heard, but they're still raising these cut scores for graduation rate, for FCAT and ACT.
Did they also make us an ACT testing center?
SAT. SAT testing center for 11th graders. All of our 11th graders have the opportunity to take the SAT for free without showing your ID during the school day. Right.
Being taken 2 times. And this is another reason why you got to be very careful in looking at where Florida ranks or we rank versus other states. When we encourage every 11th grader to take it, other people, just your ones that know they're going to college that want that SAT score, and so it's a different ballgame in different states or different areas. while our overall percentage may be low because we have more people taking it than somebody that would just encourage just their high achievers to take it. Just a word of caution when you look at some of the, well, this state's got 65% passing, we only got 40%.
They did give us a concordance score for PERT math, which, notice the PERT math is 114 here. If they score a 97 on the PERT, that replaces the Algebra 1 EOC. But those same students are expected to take the PERT in 12th grade and pass it for a readiness score. So once they get their 97 or 98, they're not as motivated to take and pass the PERT or CPU. So sometimes you have good intentions, but it could have an impact on teacher evaluation and school grades with legislation like that. So I already went through these, coherence, fairness, reliability. These are some of the things that they've been hearing from the public. You signed a letter saying there's too much testing. We need to have less changes. The superintendent's been saying that to the Florida DOE and the governor. And they're putting it down as these are goals that they have.
Was there any discussion about what happens with PARC?
It's my next set of slides.
Because I think that undermines every single one of these.
Absolutely. That's right. I was going to make that point as well. So we'll move on. The executive order. You're familiar with the executive order. There is a letter that's going to Secretary Duncan to include the special diploma in the 5-year graduation rate. That's just wrong. So they need to fix that.
Yes, they do.
Right?
Absolutely.
So they're going to continue to make those recommendations. Moving forward with the assessment piece, English, language arts, and math. Okay, you've heard a lot about the PARC. You've heard a lot about the standards and where we are with the standards. They had their review. All educators, parents, community members could go online and comment on the Common Core, and they collected all that data. They have thousands of hits on that. They're sorting it, qualitatively looking at it, and then they're going to report out. Their goal, though, is to move forward with an assessment in the spring, a selection of an assessment. And so the criteria for selecting those assessments are listed here, aligned to the standards, and they're not calling them the Common Core state standards. They're just calling them the new state standards, because the Common Core has received a lot of negative press.
I didn't think we'd do that anymore, Common Core. I didn't think we would do that anymore.
Well, and that's the point. The point is they had that open window for educators to comment, and so now the DOE is going to look at all those comments, and then they're going to make a decision on where they need to change certain standards and what the direction will be from here. But for the most part, what we're hearing is that most of those standards will probably be intact.
The Common Core is still in statute.
That was part of the testing that you're thinking of, which is the testing of the Common Core standard.
Thank you. Of course, they're looking at the cost. The testing time was a big issue. You know, it's going to take 20 extra days, so all these things are still being discussed in detail. So, there's 3 assessment options that we're looking at for the spring, and this would be for the next year's assessment. This train is not stopping. Okay, this is still moving forward, and we're going to have a new assessment with these new standards. The PARC is still a possibility. We're just not going to be the fiscal agent, but the PARC is still a possibility. Partnership with other states is a possibility, an option, and then a shelf or semi-shelf assessment product is a possibility. This will impact your teachers and your schools, our teachers, because it will be a new assessment. We're moving away from FCAT 2.0 next year, according to the state. And there are advantages to all of these. I put those in the PowerPoint. I'm not going to go over all of them today. It's complicated. How they're going to select this assessment, this new assessment to somehow assess the new standards, and then have it done in a timely manner next year, during the school year, and how they're going to create cut scores, and how we're going to include that in teacher evaluation. paid. I'm not going to try to explain it for them because they have their advantages and disadvantages all laid out. What I will give you an opinion that I have right now is that I think they're leaning towards working with other states to create an assessment so that they don't have the park label on it, but it's going to be park-like. Okay, so it'll be more interactive. It will not just be multiple choice. There'll be short answer. It'll take longer to test, but it won't take as long as the park is going to take. And they will be assessing the new standards. There's some advantages. One of the disadvantages of doing that is getting everybody on the same page from these other states and doing it in a timely manner, especially if you're trying to do this in the spring. You're dependent on stability in partner states. And then the idea of creating your own using the shelf or semi-shelf assessment, those are also listed out there.
Dr. Nick,
Yes.
these all are factors required by Race to the Top funds?
They were included in Race to the Top, and then they were written into legislation. So whether or not it was just, Race to the Top,
They were written into Florida?
yes, they were written into the new standards within the statute, that they would be assessed on the new statute, on the new standards. I even asked that question to Mary Jane Tappan during the Common Core Institute this summer. I said, can we just use 2.0 for one more year? I asked it at FOIL again. Why are we pushing forward when we have an assessment that works for our state, gives us some time to select, and the response back was, we were moving forward. And I really was surprised. I was in a room, I said this to Mr. Hastings, of directors and assistant superintendents from across the state, and nobody had a follow-up question to my question. New York is waiting. He had just presented out, the presenter had just presented out. Kansas is waiting, and we're pushing forward. Again, another question for the legislature. Can we wait? Any other questions on this topic as I move into our next very brief PowerPoint on Abbott and where we are with Abbott in our district?
Bless you.
Okay, I have some positive news about our Abbott program. And just kind of a state of where we are as a district. I went as district director to the training that's required. Abbott district leadership training for 3 days. Last week got to walk through a couple demonstration schools. And I just wanted to share out, after seeing what's happening in other schools throughout the state, where we are. What we see in our schools, we do want Abbott to be school-wide because it has so many positive components to it. And I'm going to walk through some of what they are. Currently, here what we have with our Abbott schools. We have Bronson Middle High School, they're certified, and there's a certification process that they have to go through each year. Chiefland Middle High School is certified. We have Wilson High School this year, they will go through certification for the first time. Wilson Middle for the first time, and certification for Cedar Keys, since this is their first year, they will go through it the following year. Here are the essentials that really make up Abbott. Student selection. I got to sit in on interviews at Bronson last year. Over 200 students applied. They all came in, shirt and tie. They interviewed to be in the Abbott program because they wanted to be a part of this. They wanted to change the direction and to be more involved in college and career readiness through this Abbott program. So it's voluntary. There's an elective that they go to every day. Every day there's an elective. They have an elected teacher that would help them with organizational skills. They provide tutorials. They have binder checks. All these things happen during the Abbott elective. The enrollment is, they also are expected, every Abbott student is expected to enroll in a rigorous curriculum. So this year, we have Avid students that started 2 or 3 years ago. They will take their first AP class or their first dual enrollment class. But if you're in the Avid program, you're expected to do that. I should have mentioned in the selection process, these are first generation students. Their parents did not go to college. And they are C average, like C students, and their FCAT scores between a 2 and a 3. Avid is not designed for low level 1 highly at-risk students. It's for the middle students who need extra support to get them into these higher classes to be successful.
That in itself is very unique to me,
It is.
because we've always left out the people in the middle of all that.
Yes.
And the thing about this that excites me is the fact that students bought into it, but parents are buying into it. And that's, I mean, I don't know how you do that, or how you got that done. For me, that's pretty amazing.
It is.
Because parents are buying into it.
They are. And if you talk to a parent about Avid and their students in Avid, they will tell you it has made a huge difference for my child. And please keep Avid. I even had teachers the other day, we had a professional development. We had 25 teachers come to the training. We had an Avid coordinator for the state come, 25 teachers from around the district, all there to talk about Avid. And one of the groups of teachers said, we want to know that when you're hiring new principals and administrators, if they support Avid. Can you make that part of the interview process? That's how strongly they feel about it.
If I'm not, if we could move the whole process to, and I'll use a quote from Bernard Shaw. He said, we are not interested in seeing students that, no, we are not interested in knowledge pursuing students. What we want to see is students in pursuit of knowledge. In other words, the student taking responsibility for their knowledge, for their education. And once we can move it from teacher-centered and teachers-directed and the teacher trying to force-feed knowledge to students and have the students desiring, actively seeking knowledge, then we made that turn and we'll be so much better off. And that's what this is all about. That's what Avid's all about. Robert Bernard Shaw said.
Absolutely. The organizational skills, I don't know about you, but when I was in high school, middle school, I wasn't formally taught how to take notes. They are taught specifically how to take Cornell notes, the Cornell way, where they have the left column where they write questions, then they take notes on the right column, they go back, they highlight, and then they have to summarize their notes every day. In a school-wide Avid system, if every student is doing that, that's going to help your achievement. That means they're writing every day, they're taking good notes, and then they're reflecting on what they learned. It's relevant reading and writing curriculum. They have what's called WICR, writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading. Those are the major points of Avid curriculum is WICR. If you're writing every day, you're doing inquiry in the classroom, collaboration, you're teaching them organizational skills, you're having them read every day. If you're doing that, all students will benefit. Train tutors. This is something that most people do not understand. And I want to just kind of share it out real quick. The tutorials that take place in the Avid classroom, the students, like Mr. Hastings said, lead the tutorials. First, they come in with a tutor request form. They have a point of confusion. They fill out everything they don't know about that issue. Most of the time, 80% of it is math. They go up to the whiteboard. They write their point of confusion on the whiteboard, and a group of 4 students and a hired tutor help them work through their problem. They ask them clarifying questions, and when the tutorial is over, 2 days a week, they actually have an answer to their problem, a new understanding of how to solve it. That's supposed to be happening twice a week in our Avid classrooms. We just trained 7 tutors last week. Travis, again, our coordinator, came out and trained our tutors. So we should see more of this. Bill Farrell, who is a principal from Citrus Schools, has been assigned free of charge to the College Board Partnership to work with our schools, Wilson Middle, Wilson High, and Cedar Key. He's here today on our tutorials to make them better so that they're more effective, so students get up and know how to do these. Okay, I'll move on to the last part here. School-wide Avid is strong. When you have your leadership, your systems in place, your instruction, the culture, it ensures college and career readiness for all students. Essentials 5 and 7, I wanted to focus on those because the organizational skills, John Lott at Bronson High School, it's school-wide. He's bought a binder for every student, and it includes all the same things that an Avid elective student should have, all of his students should have, and it's teaching them organizational skills, and the Cornell notes are in there, and everything that they are learning should be in that binder. And at any time, Mr. Locke can say, "Can I see your binder?" And they open it up, and he shows them exactly what's in the binder. It's supposed to be set up a certain way. It's excellent organizational skills. The reading and writing curriculum, they have resources that they provided us. And then the inquiry and collaboration, I want to just say one thing on this. We saw this yesterday when we walked through Bronson High School. Travis C. was leading a discussion. And the students would stand up, and based on the text that they read, a world history text, they would give their input back to the text, and then the students in the class would comment. That's the collaborative classroom environment, and we were so impressed, Jeff, weren't we, when we walked through there? That's also something he learned through the Avid process. He was at the Summer Institute, and he brought that back to the school. So here's what we have to do as far as certification and timelines. We do have to go through a self-study. We have to collect data. We have to submit the data to be certified, and that happens every year. And then finally, I want to show you one school feature. It's 3 minutes long, and then I'll be done. This is a school feature that was done by WFT at Bronson in the late spring, so I think it's very relevant to us.
Out of 17 students, there are only 3 Fs. Those need to be gone. That is awesome, but they need to be gone. No Fs. We don't make Fs at all. D's, there's A. That's not horrible, but do we make D's? No.
The AVID program here at Bronson is about opportunity. AVID is a program that gives them opportunities and teaches them strategies that help them to be more successful, like organization, questioning, working in groups, and collaboration to find answers that they don't know. So it's a program that teaches them to be successful and how to do that.
AVID, it gives kids the opportunity to work with other kids, so it's just like an extra push towards success. Last year I failed my first 4 classes in my first semester because of absences, and my GPA was a 1.4 whenever I ended the year. This year I brought it up to a 2.4 to a 2.5, and my grades are A's and B's. My parents don't really count me a lot on my grades, like they don't really even know what my grades are, but Miss Bo, she's like, "This is what you need to do, look at your grades, oh my gosh." So she keeps you in line, and I would probably have like C's and D's right now.
It's definitely kept me more organized. Without it, I'd probably be hectic, bad grades and all. But I got a sense of knowing where everything's at now. I don't have to scramble to look for it. I already know it's in my binder. It's a class that stays on me.
I always known I wanted to go to college and be successful, but when I got into AVID, I know what college I want to go to, and how much it costs, and what I want to do, and I've looked at different jobs and their yearly salaries, and I've done projects on it, and so it helps direct you a little bit.
AVID has been here for 2 years now. We started last year, and we had one AVID class, and it was a group of 9th graders, and those are my kids, and they are now in 10th grade, and we added a few 11th graders into my group. And then this year we also implemented a 9th grade class, and then we have 2 pre-AVID classes that are 7th and 8th graders. And we hope to eventually go all the way up and all the way down. It's love. They're my babies. They learn to love themselves and be proud of themselves. So AVID is why I come to work every day.
That concludes my presentation. Jenny Foshi is representative of all of our AVID teachers. They all sound like that. They all have the same passion for it. And so do our coordinators in our schools and our site teams. So I thought I'd share that with you. Good story. And if you have any questions about Avid, contact me anytime.
When will our first group that graduate next year?
Yes. And so we're going to be looking at their advanced placement data, their dual enrollment data, how they're still in readiness, all those things. But their FCAT scores, Boston Middle High School has run a correlation, and those students are outperforming students that are like them on the FCAT as well.
Jenny loves to talk about that.
Yes, she does.
Loves that class.
Did you see the students out doing the tutorials?
Right.
I mean, that is collaboration in the classroom, student-led. That's the high end even of our evaluation system games. So, see a lot of positive things happening.
Thank you, Tom. And if I might, I'd like to, if you've ever had a chance, or you need to take all two years and get a chance to do it in that class. And all that stuff they were doing, they do that in classes out there. It's pretty neat. All that note taking stuff and all that, they do just like they were talking on the screen. It's a very good program.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I'd like to request that we cancel the January 7th board meeting since the Christmas holidays and New Year holidays extended to, we don't have any personnel here that will be doing an agenda. And the first day that we are back is January the 6th, and therefore we would not have an agenda in a timely manner for the board to meet on that day. So therefore, I'm asking that we cancel the January 7th board meeting.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Ms. Pamela, are any additions or changes to the minutes?
No, sir.
Everybody had a chance to look over the minutes?
Move approval of the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
And moved probably second, that we approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Any, on the consent agenda, anybody got any questions on the consent agenda? Mr. Delaney?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Astle?
On the various contracts and agreements, are those pretty well in line with what they've been in the past? Everything's just sort of holding the same?
Yes, there were a few small changes at the request of Mr. Clemens because we're now into an agreement with our private schools. Before we have not. They're receiving a proportionate share of IDA. But we ran that contract through our school board attorney. And so he gave his blessing, so everything's in order.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Cowell?
No, sir, I'm good.
Thank you, Mrs. Brookings.
Why do we have to do it with the private schools? What was the reason for that?
I'll let Mr. Clemens speak to that. I think part of it is that we did not want their personnel part of our school board personnel because we're contracting with individuals to provide direct services to their schools. So we had changed the language somewhat. Mr. Delaney, is there anything you want to add to that?
I think what Ms. Brooks is wondering is why is the federal IDA money, why was it eligible to?
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
It's
yes.
always been that way for a number of years. Students that are provisionally placed at our private schools on a K scholarship, they're entitled to a portion of the IDA funds. And so I allocate a certain amount with approval of expenditures. And so our private schools are wanting to provide services, speech and language services, and tutoring after school. We're entitled, we have been for a number of years. It's federal law that we have to provide that support to their private
I
schools.
think the general public would absolutely flip out if they knew how much of our federal dollars go to private schools. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that go to private schools. That's what keeps these private schools operating.
And that's really so unfair. I just do not agree with that one single bit. That's more money that's taken away from our students.
Those are federal programs, and the only way to change that is by changing the structure of our federal government.
Well, I'll tell you, I think that as legislative delegate that I certainly failed our board, and maybe our new one, and work on that. And, you know, lobby for that because,
Well,
I will tell you, as a case president of our state organization, we've been lobbying for a number of years. And the part that we take issue is with the accountability. They're not held to the same
Right,
standard
yes.
as we are in private, in the public sector. And yet they're
Absolutely.
entitled to public funds.
Absolutely, especially when Dr. Burnett gives us a program and goes over and all the changes and the things that we have to do. And then they don't, we have to give our money to them.
There are students nor their staff are not to do those things.
Yeah, it's just so unfair. We need our media to express that. Put it out there, like I said, they need to know. Everybody needs to know. Yeah, thank you. That's another thing I'll just lean on.
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. Mr. Charles? Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by passing this consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Mr. Superintendent.
first of all, I'd like to talk about my day in Tallahassee with the legislatures. I will continue to work diligently to make sure that our new Williston Middle School, High School is well funded and that things are in accordance with the wishes of our communities and that we move forward. I don't take anything for granted, and my visits with Bob Bedford, he secured about 12 different offices for me to visit with and to tell them why we need a new school and our projections of what we will do. And a lot of the legislators had questions of me. They wanted to know, you know, depending on what their agenda was. You know, some of them were more interested in technology, some of them were in vocational, you know, certification programs. Some of them about the overall scheme, asking questions about teacher evaluation, school grades, Common Core, all of that. You know, so I got to express my feelings to them. They got to ask their questions, and I think they sincerely wanted to hear from grassroots what our feelings were on these issues. But overall, my thing was we need a new school and we need special facility money and we need your support. And I felt so comfortable talking with all of them and so supported. And they absolutely, without hesitation, you know, yes, we agree with you 100%. Now they'd ask me questions like, are you state board approved? Has the state board counted you in their budget and so on and so forth? And of course I had all those answers and they were what they wanted to hear. So it was all very good, and but they are just like when we campaign locally, we might have people that are in our base that we know are going to vote for us, but they want to know that you value their support. And I heard that repeatedly. And so I will make plans to be in Tallahassee at least once a month, and as we get into the legislative season, I will be there twice a month to make sure. I do not worry about our legislature, but they have to be forceful enough to where the governor does not blink. And so, you know, that's my you know, push in this direction. But I really felt really good about my day in Tallahassee. I gave out 14 of our things that we did when we went to before the board in Tallahassee. I gave out 14 of those notebooks to different people, and you know, they were very well received, and I appreciate it. And of course, our local people, Charlie Stone and Charlie Dean, were very supportive, and will continue to be so. So I felt good about that.
Mr. Superintendent, may I ask a question, sir?
Absolutely.
If I read that budget out, you know, I got a copy of it, you sent it to me, I think. And it looked like there was $50 million there for special facilities. Is that enough to include all 4 projects?
Right, now, basically.
Now, I might have read that thing wrong.
No, but they are not going to fully fund it all in one year.
Right.
You know, so our 35 million over 3 years, you know, be like 12 million.
Yes, sir.
And so, yes, sir, doing it that way. And that was a question they asked me too. Do you expect to get all this money in 1 year? I want to get it however you want to give it to me. You know, if you want to give it to me in 2 years, which I think may be a possibility, I'm good with that, because we could build it in 18 months. So, you know, I'm good with that. If they want to give it to me in 1 year, I'm fine with that. But if they want to do 3 years, you know, we'll make that work too. So I assured them that how to, but being that type of process, yes, sir, there is enough money there.
Because we hope there'll be 4 projects, is that right? They got to fit, go on Moorhaven, and then the 3 for this year.
Correct.
So that 50 million is enough to cover all, you know, a year's draw, all 4 projects?
Yeah, ours, for this year, ours is the most expensive one. The one in Madison was like 17 million, and you spread that over 3 years, you know. And the other one was an elementary school at 27 million, and ours at 35.
And then one more in,
Yeah, and I don't think it was that much either. I mean, it wasn't that
But
much.
then that 50 million to cover all 4 draws per year.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I thought that I had read that in, that this was designed to be 1/3 of the amount that you had, I think, estimated.
Yes, sir.
Could you comfortably give us at some point in time the names of those, not necessarily all the 14, but those significant ones that are associated with or own the special facility committees?
Yeah, the Department of Education education chairperson, people like that. I certainly can. And
email it or?
yeah, not only those that we saw, and sometimes, like, getting in to see Senator Gates, President Gates, is, I'll say, darn near impossible. But if you are able to see the person that directs all of his thoughts, you're in good standing, and that's who we saw. We didn't actually get into Senator Gates' office, but we saw his right-hand man, and I felt like we had a very productive talk there.
That's if you agree with some of the things that he's proposing and trying to.
Well, that's true too. I'm on his Senator Gates mailing list, and I respond to him quite frequently. That's true.
That works.
Yes, sir. Any other question about legislative day? I will, next trip, I will get into the governor's office. Now, I won't be able to see the governor again, but I do expect to see his 2 people, Sherry Crooms and Kate. Anyway, his people that direct all of his efforts towards education. I will get in to see them next trip. We mentioned, and you had some questions about the Common Core state standards and where there will continue to be pushback. I don't think Arnie Duncan helped himself yesterday by saying that it was just the white middle-class soccer moms that are finding out their children are geniuses, and that's the pushback. That did not go over well, and so there will continue to be the give and take push on Common Core. You know, my stance has always been, for the last 30 years and will continue to be, that education is a state mandate. It's the state's responsibility. And you know, and that's one of the things that's being addressed. And so, you know, it will continue to be pushed in that direction, I think. Anyway, and I can visit with y'all at some point in time on that if you so desire. I do want to mention our hope for class size reduction too. You know, last year we paid a little over $100,000 penalty, which is just ridiculous to take from counties that can't make class size and give it to counties that can. And so there's a little loophole in there that I read about Pasco County doing this year, and I don't want this to get out, especially to Alachua County, but, if all your schools in the district are schools of choice, and which ours are, and it's been that way on the website, a child in Williston can go to Cedar Key, you know, and if they get them to the nearest bus stop, goes to Cedar Key, we provide transportation from there on it, or they can transport them home. But we allow students from Chiefland to go to Bronson and vice versa. Is, you know, even though we have a designated boundary, we still allow school choice for that. So being at that, they said in this legislation last year that we could go school by school instead of class by class. That should alleviate our penalty. And so, and basically by doing that, and this was a team effort of Jeff Edison and Bob Clemens and Blake Davis going through the hoops to make this happen in Tallahassee. And so that was a wonderful thing. It may save us $100 grand on that.
When will we know about that, Mr. Chairman?
Well, when they do the next run, it should show up this week, and so we'll know how that run turns out. But pretty quick. That's all I have. Anybody got any questions for me? Anybody in the audience? You don't get it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Superintendent. All right, more comments. Mr. Lane, you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Mr. Asman?
Just a couple things. Have we got anywhere on the lease of the old gym there at Bronson?
We haven't had any conversations yet.
That we're working on?
Yes.
Then the other thing is, must have been now 2 years ago, we brought in the fast forward stuff. Don't necessarily, me personally, I don't necessarily want a big PowerPoint, but I'd like to know, how we coming on that? Are we seeing a difference? I mean, Fort got a pretty good lick. I want to see the good results that we're getting. I know we're getting them. I just want to see it. Let the world know about it.
I think that's a good idea. We'll try to put together.
We had talked about it in the past. There are things that we do, and then we never see the end result. That's something that I thoroughly thought was a great idea, and I'd like to see that.
Okay.
And, the other thing was, I felt very encouraged by the email I saw from the negotiations. I really felt that was a move in the right direction, and I commend both sides. I wish Carmen Ward was here. I'd tell her I commend that.
In 3 years to get, Mr. Adams, 3 years to get those emails from the superintendent, that's the first one I ever saw that had a positive.
That had a positive spin.
Right.
And
That's
not
right.
knocking
That's
it,
not
not,
what
and
they
not,
told you, sir.
not none of the, it was one that didn't have the, well, he said this and she said this, and right, we want this and we want that. That was a sign of cooperation, and I commend both sides. That's what we need right there. That's great.
Well, that's the way it should work. That's the way I thought it would work when I came to office. That has not been the way it's worked for the last 5 years and prior to that. But that is certainly my desire, is for that type of cooperation. We are not the enemy. They should not be the enemy.
That's right.
We should all be working for the best things for our students and our employees. And have this idea that somebody's the enemy is just not right. And so I would love for that to be the focus of the future.
That's right.
I think it's great. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Mr. Cowell?
I'll echo Mr. Asbell's comments that first time I've ever seen Mr. Hastings' name and Ms. Carmen's name on the same email, so on the memo, so that was a good thing. 2 things, those of you that haven't read your mail, there's a pie auction next Tuesday in Cedar Key, so if you'd like to come, we'd love to have you there. So if you can't come, I'll take your money, so just bring me a blank check. So, and also along with that, the Cedar Key Middle School and High School Forestry competed last week, and we had a state champion middle school forestry team, and we had the overall high individual, and we had the 2nd place in the high school. So, congrats to them. My middle school basketball team kicks off their season Friday night, so.
Very good.
Good luck, Mr. Kelly.
I need
Good
it,
luck.
I need it. I have 20 middle school girls, with 9 of them being 6th graders.
Poor man. Mr. Carter, I do want to say this, the middle school team, they won every category except for tool identification, which they came in second, but other than that, they won every category.
They did.
They won enough plaques to basically fill this table, between the high school and the middle school team.
And 3 of them are on my middle school basketball team, so.
Can we get them in here to
You
recognize
know, Ms.
them?
Patton, you go to Parker comment?
I did not, so we had basketball, they missed basketball practice.
Yeah.
And I told them as long as they won, they didn't have to run when they came back, so they were real happy more about it than not
Very
running.
unique coach, Mr. Cowell.
So,
Very unique coach.
So motivated.
I like that. Thank you very much. Is that all?
yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Cowell. Ms. Brooker?
I just, what they said about union negotiations and the positive email, I was really, happy to see that. And Mr. Hastings just said, going forward, it needs to be that way. I thought that's what we've tried to do all along, that we've never had, anything, we did never want a disagreement. And I'm really sorry, they're not here today, because it just seems to be when there's, some negative or some disagreements and things, and this is positive, this is going forward, and that's genuinely what we all want. I mean, it always has been. That's what I've always been clear as day to me.
It's been very hard on me because I take it personally.
Yeah.
I spent 20 years protecting my teachers.
Yeah.
And trying to build my teachers up and so forth. And to be put out there and cast like I'm the enemy of teachers, that
Right.
hurts my feelings.
And I certainly understand 100%. I do.
But now maybe we get back to like it used to be when my dad was the negotiator, president of the union, and Rob Ice and Cliff Norris. We've had many people that were very positive in trying to do the best they could for our school system and our employees, and yet not cast the other side as the enemy. So maybe we can get back to that type of venue. Other districts have it. There's no reason why.
That's right, they do. They think we're the odd ones for having.
They do think
Is
we're
it-
the,
yeah.
when I tell people we haven't had a contract since 2010, they laugh.
They do. Yeah. So maybe this is positive, that's what we want to make sure it does go forward and we continue that way.
I do.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this care center and the schedule, just so y'all look at that, and I spoke to Donna, and I think it's a wonderful idea that she's including us, and we're gonna be there, and I'm gonna be there to support, and, we all have our dates, but I think it's a great thing, I think it's been wonderful for our county.
I think it's been very well received by everyone, and I'm very happy about that.
I don't have any other comments.
Thank you, Ms. Brooker. Mr. Carter?
Following what the superintendent and other board members think about our negotiations, while we recognize that it is adversarial by nature, it doesn't have to be controversial. And I appreciate efforts that have been made by all to limit our part of being controversial on these issues. So thank you there. And along with what Ms. Brookins was saying, please do your best to make yourself available for these. I think it's very important that since this is something we get committed to, that we all stay committed to it and ensure that it happens.
You don't have to give any big speeches, you just have to be there.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. I too would like to echo the comments of my fellow board members and say we appreciate what everybody's done from a contract standpoint. And just need to keep working on it. It's nice to hear something positive come out of that for a while. It's been a while. So I just hope we can keep working toward that. Ms. Destin, have we heard anything about the RFQ?
I've got a draft here that Mr. Clemens, and I got a draft with Mr. Lane. But, we'll look at the language.
Okay.
Yes,
We're not at the point of having the board vote on putting it out today.
no, sir, I've got to make sure that they're in agreement with the proposed language.
So have you anticipation date when that happens, when that's going to take place?
soon as they get through collaborating, we'll have something for you.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have. Any other questions or comments?
Do we have to have board approval to advertise that?
Yes, sir. The board approved us to go forward with the process. If I remember correctly, the last time to do this,
Okay,
okay, but the board has not approved or included votes.
right. So, what my question is, and not that we're in any big hurry because we still got time, but we could put forth a motion.
We don't need to.
Now we're not on the agenda. We'll do that next time. But we canceled this next meeting and we're going to get to the 17th.
But special,
We all have few closed sessions.
and we had to have a special meeting.
Look at the board minutes, and you see.
The RFQ was
The RFQ
approved.
was
and-
approved.
Yes.
We approved, put it together, bring that. The committee was selected. We were selected. I thought the committee was selected, to review or
Right. We talked about what we had named the second committee. But
And we used the revised on that, we would use the revised on, and they approved that, that's what the board approved.
very good, very good.
You are, sorry.
What about the RSQ? Okay, any other comment?
I didn't do it yet on a few things.
Okay. So,